Hey everyone, welcome to the Purpose Matrix. You are going to love the discussion with Nathan Jamail. Absolutely fantastic. Great information. Really, he talks a lot about leadership and the difference between being a manager and a coach. He uses a lot of sports analogies, so he's really easy to understand. And the stories he tells are absolutely fantastic. He is a funny guy. He brings a lot of humor to the discussion. He had me cracking up throughout the episode. So be ready to laugh. He debunks some myths that we have. He talks about a very different way, an approach to hiring people, culture, strategy, the difference between like the importance of those. If you're a manager, if you're a leader, if you're running a business, if you're a coach, a teacher, whatever it might be, you're going to get a lot of value out of this discussion. He's going to tell you why you should go broke possibly. So pay attention to that near the end and really just going all in after something that you're passionate about. So you're going to enjoy the discussion. Check it out. Hello and welcome to the Purpose Matrix. I'm very excited for today's guest, Mr. Nathan Jamail. Nathan, how are you doing today?
Phil, I'm living the dream, brother. As I said earlier, if I was any better, I'd be you.
Well, okay. So you already know that Nathan's full of it, but he does have a lot of wisdom. He's just not going to act like he does, but we're going to have a lot of fun today. We just spent 15, 20 minutes talking beforehand and we're like, okay, hold on. We got to stop talking, stop having this. But we were having a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun today, but we're going to learn a lot and take that serious because Nathan. So I saw Nathan speak at an event probably 2 or 3 months ago, and I reached out and he's been so gracious to join us. He is a leadership guru. He's not just wrote books on it. So he's wrote a couple different books, Serve Up, Coach Down, the Leadership Playbook, the Sales Leaders Playbook. He's also proven it. So he was an executive and a CEO in the corporate world in his past. So he's learned this by doing. And he's really humble, but he brings in a lot of humor too. And he's also a coach, speaker, mentor. He helps a lot of people. He's really putting his life towards serving others and having an impact by developing other leaders, which I appreciate. I'm passionate about this topic. Nathan, how did you become passionate about this? Kind of what's your story that brought you to doing what you're doing now?
Man, I don't know how I became passionate about it. I tell people I've never had a job I hated. I was a janitor. That's not true. I was a janitor for a short period of time in between the time that I thought I was a salesperson for permanent hire and when Circuit City told me I was seasonal help. I didn't know that. Like everybody knew I was seasonal help, but come January, like, hey, you're no longer needed. You're seasonal. I'm like, no, I'm permanent. No. And so I said, I'll take whatever job you want. Like I need a job. I was a senior in high school, and I'm like, but I need money. My parents, it's just me and my mom, and she was a secretary, and I needed lunch money. I said, I'll do whatever, and I became a janitor, and I did it for like 3 months, and I went to the boss and I said, dude, I can't do this. Like I feel like I can do just about anything, but I can't do this janitor thing. And that's how the leader came to me and called me the next day, the GM, and said, hey, I want to offer you a full-time sales job because anybody who is willing to do anything to have revenue or success, like I'm interested. And so, but ever since that janitor job, whether I was in financial services or I was never excited about insurance. I was never excited about selling beepers or pagers for those of you that are much younger. That was before phones. And then phone, like and I owned a mortgage company. I guess what I'm saying is I've never been excited about what I sell or what industry I'm in. Man, I have a great passion. I love selling because I think it's serving people. I don't think selling is the old school of manipulation and leading people. I think it's about understanding someone's perspectives and priorities and then helping them find the best thing for them. And then the only thing I love more than that is teaching salespeople how to do that. I like the grind, man. Like I compare it to my son who is now 30. When he was 10 years old, one of the most fun things I've ever done is coach his baseball team.
Yeah.
And it's about that helping people achieve things. I think it's the yelling in a fun way. I love the coaching. And so I love everything about it. And I think when you saw me on stage, I would do speaking for free, but it pays really, really well. So I don't do it for free.
Nice. There's like 3 tangents I already want to go down. First of all, the janitor job. We talked about this a little bit on the pre-show, but we talked about technical skills and life skills. And the founder, CEO, president, whoever said, anyone that has the willingness to work and to want it, I don't care. Basically, he said, I don't care what your technical skills are. Now, he probably saw some capability and some leadership and sales capability in you. But he said, I don't care what your skills are technically, you want it. You want the job. So I'm going to give you something. I'm going to figure it out. And I think it's so important because I think so often we get consumed when we're hiring people that what does their resume look like? What is their degree? What are their technical skills? What is their experience? But the leadership stuff really, really matters. And I don't know if you recognize that then, but I'm sure you see that now.
Phil, I spend, I'm going to say 15 hours a week just on the topic of my coaching clients. Stop hiring the paper. The biggest mistake we make is we hire resumes. This is why most interviews are terrible, because they talk about what do you know? And here's what happens. We hire the paper, not the person. And I've been playing golf for 20 years. I'm so bad that when I go to the country club and play with other members, the first question someone asks me about 3 to 4 holes in, they go, hey, do you mind if I ask you a question? I don't mean to offend you, which means, by the way, they're going to offend you. And he
Right.
says, they always say, are you a member? I'm like, I am. They're like, man, shouldn't you be better? Like, just because someone's been doing something a long time doesn't mean they're good at it. Now, if you look, I'll give you a quick rant on this. If you ask people, describe your best employee, they never say experience, knowledge, or tenure. They say they're a go-getter, they're driven, they're positive, they're a team player. They always are willing to help. Like, they describe all the attributes of someone,
Right.
and their commitment and their conviction. If you ask someone to describe their worst person, it's always they're lazy, they don't care, they're looking to do the bare minimum, they lack drive, they lack a good attitude. And so my question to people is, why are you interviewing paper when the difference between your best person and your worst person has nothing to do with resume? And here's why. Because they think by hiring someone with experience is going to do 2 really important selfish things for the hiring leader.
Oh, yeah.
The first one is they're going to hit the ground running. And they're not. They're going to be walking because that's why they're available.
Yeah.
And so I think, well, it's less work on me, less responsibility on me. And by the way, we're all guilty of this. This isn't me preaching of wisdom of what I know and do and don't do. We all do it. And then the second thing that we see is, oh my gosh, especially in sales, they're going to bring they already have current relationships and they're going to bring their book of business over. That very rarely happens. And so one thing I tell people is, listen, hire the person, the one that's driven, the one that, and by the way, competence and the ability to learn is very important. It's kind of like in sports, someone with a high football IQ is typically a better athlete than someone who has natural football talent, especially when you get into the big leagues. So I'm looking for someone who's smart, someone who's driven, someone who can learn and comprehend quick. And here's my last bit I'll tell you on this. The number one thing we all want as leaders and owners is committed employees. The best way to start and end up with a committed employee is start off being committed to them, to teach them 90 days, 120 days, and get them get them everything you got. But I'm absolutely 100% with you. If anyone on your show listens to anything today, interview the person, hire the person, skip the paper. I'll tell you, Phil, it's so funny. I don't even look at resumes when I interview people. Like, you want my resume? I'm like, nah, I don't need it. I'll talk to you about it.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I had a mentor of mine that said, we so often hire for job skills, or you'll get hired for your job skill and fired for your life skills or your leadership skills. But you're saying, no, but just don't do that. Don't make that mistake. Don't hire for their job skills, for their technical skills. Throw that out the window. And ultimately, you're not hiring for what they know. You're hiring for their ability to learn and their hunger to learn. Like, those things are so much more important. And recognize that when you're hiring, not a year, 2 years, 5 years later. And the other thing you said in Cincinnati too is hire fast, fire faster too. So a lot of great wisdom here. So the other thing that's interesting, Nathan, is you talked about it in the earlier part of the discussion. I wanted to come back to it. Is you talked about what you do, like the product you have doesn't really matter. And I've said this before, but I think we get caught up a lot of times in, like, for us, real estate. Like, am I super passionate about buildings and roofs and toilet? I'm not, right? But our mission is to leverage real estate to do good in many ways. That's what we say. And you talked about how you love to teach, you love to sell, and the product doesn't matter. And I think a lot of us get caught up in the company we're at sometimes if we get caught up, I think it should be for what we're doing and the people we're interacting with, maybe the culture, but not the product or like what we sell, if you will. Tell me more about what you meant by that. What's your perspective on that?
One of my clients, they sell office products. Like, Nathan, the problem now is modern days, office products aren't sexy. Like, it's like people aren't dying to become office product salespeople. Another client sells construction things like polypipe. Another client sells concrete pipe. Another client, they sell electronic components, like an electrical distributor. Another client does technology. I said, listen, and I have several people in the financial world selling insurance. I said, none of it's sexy. I have one client, they sell mud, literally mud. They sell it to oil rigs to plug holes. I didn't even know you could sell mud. I had no idea this was a gig. And so one thing I tell all owners is nothing we sell is exciting. Like, I don't get excited about technology. And some of my tech clients get a little upset with me. They're like, you don't understand, it's very complicated. I'm like, not for those who use it. We just want it to work, kind of like, this. But yeah, I'm with you. The widget we sell, and there might be some initial interest. Like, if you're interested in technology, my oldest son does coding. There might be interest in that technology, but at the end of the day, it's who we do it with and who we do it for is what gives us happiness, not the widget which we're attached to.
So what should we be looking for? If we're not looking for the product or what we're selling, what should we be paying attention whether we're starting a business, running a business, looking for a leadership role somewhere, a management role, what should we be looking for in a company?
I think what you should be looking for, does the daily task of the job align with what you like to do? I'm not a creator. Like, I don't want to create and invent things. Like I don't want to go find a new way to get a technology. Like, that's not in my wheelhouse. That's not what gets me excited. So I tell people, find something you love. I truly think you should love what you're doing. Like, I think the fact that people work just to work is quite sad. And by the way, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you better love what you're doing. Right. Because you'll quit. If there's no saying, if you start your own business for money, you won't make it. Because you'll quit. And so, I've owned dry cleaners. I could care less about dry cleaning. I've owned a mortgage company. My wife and I owned art studios for children. And all of it, the work itself wasn't what we were passionate about. It was kind of just the business. And as we left corporate America, became entrepreneurs, our addiction now is the challenge.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, no, I love that. And in Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, he said it, but it's like, what if you're looking for something you're uniquely skilled at or can be uniquely skilled at and passionate about, something that you love to do. And if you do those two things, you can probably figure out the financial engine, the vehicle, how to make money in that, especially if you're an entrepreneur. But honestly, if you focus on those two things, somebody's going to want to hire you for that, and you're going to be able to make money. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about your book, The Leadership Playbook, and just, you talked a lot about that, but I want to hit some of those different themes, messages, key principles that you have in that. The first thing I want to talk about, though, is like the theme of culture over strategy. Tell me more about why that matters. Because to defend myself here, Nathan, I was in charge of our product strategy. Like, I was, it was so important. It was everything back in my corporate days. Like, but why is culture more important than strategy?
Because the best strategy in the world cannot be executed with a weak culture. Let me give you an example. You build the most insulated house in the world, right? You live in Ohio. It's February. It's 3 degrees outside. You got 18 inches. Us Texans, we don't even know how to measure snow, but you got 18 inches of snow on the ground, and you got the most unbelievable. And then you got a heater that is off the hook, like it could heat NASA. But if you open up and keep 4 windows open, you'll never warm that house.
Right.
Because the windows are a metaphor for the broken culture, the holes in your culture. You have to, it goes beyond having the right people in the right place doing the right things. Like, there's all these great quotes that have little substance without true action. And what this means, it ties back into hire fast, fire faster. If you have someone on your team that does not make your team better, I use this in a lot of my speeches. If you have someone on your team with a bad attitude who lacks commitment or is not propelling the team forward, if you have that person on your team, if they have that attitude and that belief, that's their fault. If you're paying them, that's your fault. And one of the things that I think is important is I think you need to have a good game plan. And so I don't think a good strategy or a good game plan is not important. I just think if you don't have a strong culture, your game plan does not matter. And so that's where I talk about culture. And then I talk about culture over individuals too. I think one of the mistakes we make as leaders is we are committed to the individual and not the team.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing here is if you're having a lot of, let's say quarterly reviews or just, annual planning sessions and you're focused on strategy all the time, but your culture's broke, you're wasting your time. Not to say you shouldn't do that, but you got to fix culture first. So if you have cultural issues and you have personnel issues, if you have, 3 people that represent 3 windows that are open and just killing the culture, you have to address that first. You're wasting your time. If you're spending your time on your strategy, you got to go do the tough things, and it's your fault for paying them. I love that. So how do we do it? How do we build culture? So outside of hiring and firing, okay, we have someone, they want to be a part of a good culture, but they have the right intentions. They just don't know how. How are we teaching that? What are our expectations? How do we approach that?
So let me start off by saying, let me give you the 5 differences between coaching and managing. And this is going to be the key to this. The first one, and I talk about this in the leadership playbook. The first one is in management. We work with those who need the attention instead of deserve the attention. So our involvement is a consequence of failure. The worst quote I've ever heard in leadership, and people say it all the time and have for decades, is I hire good people and I get out of their way and let them do their job. I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. In sports, they draft or hire the best person and they spend all their time with them to make them better. So let me give you an example. If you ask most leaders or employees what their goal is to be so good that their boss leaves them alone. If my goal is to be so good that my boss leaves me alone, how valuable is my boss to me? Not very.
Right.
But in sports, an athlete's goal is to be so good that they get all the coach's attention because the coaches spend time with the first string and not the third string. Right. Now, this principle is very important to the culture. Our role as a leader in that team, people want to be around us. People they want to know if we can make them better. And so that mindset is key. So the first one is we're going to spend time with those who deserve the attention versus need the attention. The second one is in sports, they will never sacrifice the locker room or the culture for a person. In business, we do it all the time. Give you an example. There are some superstar athletes that are some of the most talented athletes in the world who got traded from team to team to team and ended their career early because they weren't healthy for the locker room. Right. They weren't healthy for the culture. And the coaches know that cost of culture is not worth the value of talent. Yeah. In business, how often do we have someone on our team that we keep on the team because they've been with us for 12 years or they have this success rate or that success rate, but they don't deserve to wear the badge. And we sacrifice the very thing we say is important for that person. Again, culture.
Yeah. And everyone on the team sees it. Like, it's not just you that sees it. Yes! So if you're in the locker room and there's probably some NFL receivers we're all thinking of that were on different teams that were traded and
we're on the same page.
So talented, but all of a sudden just a culture issue. Everyone on the team in those locker rooms saw it. Everyone on your team knows where the issues are, and they're just looking at you and waiting for you to make the bold move, to make the courageous move that needs to happen to elevate the whole culture. Everyone sees it. Like, you're not hiding it. It's happening.
No.
So
And Phil, let me give you 2 points on this, which I think your audience will absolutely go, oh yeah, I know that. In my keynotes, I ask people, have you ever worked for a boss who did not hold your peer accountable? Have you ever worked for a boss who you look at your peer and go, I cannot believe you're my peer, and I can't believe you still have a job, and they all raise their hand. I said, what did you think of your boss? And they said, well, the most common is they don't care, they're not engaged, or they're scared, or they're weak. They don't trust them because they knew that they kept their job because they didn't do theirs. And then I asked the opposite side of the question. I said, how many of you have someone on your team that shouldn't be there? And they all raised their hand. I said, we have people on our team and we don't deal with them because we're nice. We say we're not, like, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, or I don't want to sacrifice this. But are we actually that boss that people see as we don't care? And now we're on the other side of the coin. So I think that's the first one. The second one, and this goes back to culture, is you create, in sales, we call prima donnas, right? The ones that don't have to follow the rules. And now what happens is, for the new people or the people who are looking to try to do better, now my goal is to be so good I can be a jerk. Like, you're literally setting this culture of, I'll tell you this, as leaders, we tend to foster and create the bad cultures by not doing the things we know we should do, as much as we create and foster, or try to create and foster, good cultures.
Yeah. I don't know where I just read this, but the hard right. Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast. I was just listening to it, and he talks about the hard right. Like, most times the easy things that we do are wrong. Like, if you have to pick between hard and easy, there's probably a reason it's hard, because it's like, oh, my heart, and like, I really know it's the right thing, but it's the hard thing and I don't want to do it. And what you're saying is, by doing the easy thing, we're making it harder on ourselves long term. We're hurting the culture. And again, people see it. Like, even if people aren't students of leadership and studying this stuff, they can read human nature. They can tell what's going on here. So number one was, we focus on people that need attention versus deserve attention. Number two is that we don't want to sacrifice the locker room for an individual person. How else do we build culture?
So the third one, and ties back into both those, when you remove the people who don't deserve to wear the badge, you now elevate the quality of the team and the quality of the culture. When you work with those who deserve instead of need the attention, the two side effects of that is, now people are striving to work harder to get your attention. And two, you're getting a better return on your investment. If I work with my superstar and they do a little bit better, and they get 10% better, I'm probably getting a pretty good revenue or profit increase. Right. If my worst person gets 100% better, I'm probably getting zero return on my investment. So now you spin that to 3. And the third one is, coaches get engaged before the need. Managers get engaged as a consequence. So, for example, let's take business plan, strategy, or expectations. Most people don't give written expectations of people, how they expect them to do their job. And they don't prepare the people. Let's do a joint sales call, or maybe a manager watching an employee do their job. They watch the employee do their job, whether it's watching them sell or engage in a meeting or do a presentation. And then after the presentation or the sales call or the meeting is over, they go and say, okay, Phil, what'd you think went well? What'd you think didn't go well? And they get engaged as a consequence or a wrap-up show. A coach would never let you go to the football game or the match unscrimmaged or prepared. Right. So I would get with Phil and say, okay, Phil, you got this presentation. Let me see it. Let's scrimmage it. You call it role playing. And so in business, we tend to get involved after the fact. We let the people do their way. And then when their way fails, then we'll do it my way. And instead, let's set the expectations up front. Let's prepare you to be successful instead of review your failure. And so that's the third one. Coaches get engaged in the beginning to prepare a team. Managers get engaged in the end to correct the team member. And
this is all about practice, right? I mean, like you use the analogy, I think, where in sports, the game is, let's call it 3 hours long. The week of, you're practicing for 30, 40, 50 hours, I'm sure, depending on, maybe 60, depending on what sport or what you're doing. So you correct me here. To train my team 90% of the time, that seems irrational. Like, I can't get results then. So how do I balance that?
Listen, I don't think I don't think you get to 20. And it's not a lack of time. It's a lack of priority. Let me give you an example. Most salespeople today are going to make 3 or 4 phone calls or go on 3 or 4 appointments. To scrimmage for that It would take an hour. I could be your leader, Phil, and in the morning say, Phil, who are you going to interview? I'm going to interview Nathan Jamail. Okay, cool. Let's make sure you don't suck, Phil. Okay, so let's get into character. I'll be Nathan, you be Phil, and then we could scrimmage for 30 minutes, and now your podcast is significantly more successful than it would have been winging it. It's like studying for a test. Yes, athletes practice 90% of the time, and they play the game 10% of the time, and no, we can't do that. But let's put this in perspective. In a 40-hour work week, if you scrimmaged or practiced with your team members as a group once a week for an hour, turn your sales meetings or your staff meetings, which probably suck because most of them do, they go around the horn and everyone's giving updates. I always tell people, listen, if you're in a meeting and 5 people are talking to one person, what's going on in your market? What's going on in your market? What's going on in your market? That is a bad meeting. Right. That is a 101 that 4 people have to witness.
Yep.
Right. And so put this in perspective, 1 hour practice meeting. Let's say you have 5 people, so you do 5 101s. That's 6 hours. In that 6 hours, you talk about, hey, what do you got? What'd you do last week? And then you tell me about this podcast you did. And I say, well, Phil, why didn't you do this? And we get into scrimmaging on this. And then I say, what do you got next week? So I got this podcast. I say, all right, let's scrimmage. So now I've got 6 hours, 5 hours, 101s, 1 team meeting. And then let's say I'm an unbelievably committed coach and I spend the first hour of every day scrimmaging and practicing with my team. That's another 5. That's 5. That's 11 hours. If you work 50 hours a week, that's not near 90%.
Right. And
you would be the most coaching coach in probably your industry.
Right. And the other element of that is that's when a lot of times that time is when you're getting started. Like there's a compound effect of all this too, right? So in month 1, if you're practicing and doing, role playing and things like that with a sales team member, in month 6 or month 12, those discussions are advanced so far beyond what they were in month 1 because of the combination of the practice and experience that your sales team member has had. So maybe it goes faster, maybe it's more efficient, maybe there's just minor tweaks versus major tweaks. So there's a compound effect of this that early on, higher training. But I think you're saying we also, that this falls off, but to keep it going, just elevate it, elevate the whole level of the organization by continuing to practice, continuing to train.
Phil, if you did this, I don't care what you sell. And by the way, we all sell. Whether you are an engineering firm, you're selling. Someone's got to pay you to do your job.
Right.
If you learn to coach by these 5 basic steps, remove the life suckers, remove the people who don't deserve it, make the culture more important than the person, make the team the priority, focus on working with those prior to the opportunity instead of correcting after the opportunity. And you practice and scrimmage, literally 20% of the time would be amazingly. I'm telling you, doubling sales is as easy as getting up in the morning. It's kind of like, and I can make that guarantee. And here's why I say that, Phil. Wouldn't you agree that if I quit eating sugar and I went and did yoga 1 hour a day and I worked out 3 hours a week, just again, yoga, because I'm getting old. So stretching my muscles is more important than building them. But if I did yoga 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, and I did some kind of fitness training, whether it's CrossFit or, old man CrossFit, 3 hours a week, one day, 1 hour for 3 days. And I ate healthy. I ate raw foods, just no saturated fats, no seed oils, and no sugar. Would you guarantee me that in 12 months, I would be in twice as good a shape as I am today?
Absolutely. Of course.
No doubt about it.
Right.
The only difference is fitness and health. I can see it. It's tangible. I always find it amazing. If you watch some of my videos, I always ask parents who has a young child, and I want something sub age 2, and I find that young parent, and by the way, some of us old people have young kids too, but I say, listen, can your young child who's less than 2 be anything they want to be in their life? Yes, they can be president of the United States. Like we don't even know if they're smart yet, but you think they can be anything they want to be. Like you're like, oh, my kid's really smart. Your kid stacks blocks, right? And yet we believe that child can be a lawyer, a doctor, a vet, a baseball player, a football player. It doesn't matter. And yet We think a 2-year-old can be anything they want to be in this world. That's huge belief. Yet when I say double sales in 12 months, people are like, oh, that's not possible.
Right. But it's crazy. But the difference is, it's you can do it. It's not how to do it. Like, people know how to do it, right? Just like health. Everyone, it's not really a secret. And your point is business growth, sales growth, leadership. It's not really a secret. It's the discipline of execution. You just got to do it.
Yeah. Here's what you've got to be willing to do the work to get the reward. Just like our kids. Right? I mean, we have no trouble telling our kids to go to college for 4 years, study every single day. And the more you sacrifice in college, the more successful you'll have. If you're a college guy, I have mixed feelings about that. But we have no trouble telling our kids to sacrifice the hard stuff. Yep. It's just, we're just like our kids, just no one's old enough to ground us anymore. But going back to this, the last thing I'll say with this is one of the reason I think why I have a coaching business for leaders and a sales leadership coaching business for sales leaders is because one thing that the people that get coached understand is the value of it. So when you're getting coached and you get the value of it, you're more willing to invest in those who do it. And so one thing I tell people all the time is, if you don't believe in coaching, get a coach. If you do believe in coaching, the greatest growth opportunity you can do for someone is coach them. You know, my Serve Up, Coach Down book, I debunk servant leadership.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think you should I think the biggest problem is servant leadership. I don't disagree with the principle of it, that you want to love your people and serve them. I think serving our people by removing obstacles and making their life easier is a mistake. I think the way we serve them is to coach them, invest time in them so they get better and grow.
Yeah.
Sorry, I went on a tangent, Phil. You got me wound up, man. You pulled the string and I started running. So
I love it. But I want to ask you, so I kind of tied it to the whole 2-year discussion, but more of a like personal question for you and your development. How did you, we talked about the early years for you in your story, and we kind of got off on tangents, which was fantastic. But your mindset now versus, let's say, age 20 or whatever, what were the major things or the shifts that formed your mindset over time? How did that evolve?
Phil, I don't know that answer. I mean, I remember, you're not quite as old as me, but I think I'm 53. How old are you?
43.
Okay. Yeah.
Did the hair throw you off?
Well, let's be clear, Phil. I've had 2 hair transplants, so I can't really take anything away from you, brother.
Cheater. You know? Counterfeit.
and let's be clear. I would do a third.
Were they good?
They were decent, but one thing I've noticed is, man, I need another one. But
I don't know. I would be our bald brotherhood. We have. I don't know what to think of this right now, Nathan. So I got to reconsider this whole discussion. But sorry.
Listen, I tell people all the time, my hair costs more than my car, but and doesn't look near as good as my car.
I get free haircuts. I don't even have to pay a barber.
Yeah, see, that's impressive. Yeah, mine's just a bad decision that keeps on going. It's vanity, I guess. I don't have a pretty head like you.
What was your
question again?
Mindset.
How I got my mindset. So, and the reason I asked you how old you were, there was an old movie a TV show in the 80s with Michael J. Fox called Family Ties. And it was Michael Keaton, I think was his name in the movie.
Okay.
Maybe. Alex Keaton. Alex Keaton was his name. And he was this kid that, he was like a business, he'd be like 12 years old trying to do business contracts. Like, he was money driven, everything was cash flow, and he's just a funny bit. And it was played by since I was a kid, my brothers have all called me Alex Keaton, because I've always been, I sold snow cones when I was in middle school. I've always had this drive to make money. And then, so I just had this passion for business, and I don't know where it came from. My dad's an entrepreneur. And I think I just loved it. Like even today, if you said, hey, you want to go play golf or go do a coaching session, I'm going to do a coaching session. You want to do a speech or go to your kid's wedding? This is a tough call. I mean, I don't know. Can we move the wedding? But I think what happened is, I think God gave me this attribute of this drive. I think people in my life have fueled that. And And so my knowledge has come from doing everything wrong and still do everything wrong. And then I've had some great mentors in my life. One thing I think one of the greatest gifts that God gave me, and not that this is a religious podcast.
Bring it.
Yeah, was, man, I know I don't know anything. Like, I'm a learner. When I meet someone who's been married for 30 years, it is my when I ask someone, how long have you been married? They say 30 years. My second question, and it never changes. All right, give me a marriage tip. I want to be better. Like, I know how bad I am as a husband. My wife should have returned me 30 years ago. She should. And
I understand, not for your sake, but for my sake. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And it's funny. People go, my gosh, you really brag about you. Oh my God, trust me. She would like a return. So and if I see someone who's got daughters, I remember when my friend and my mentor, my oldest, who's 24 now, she was 10. And his daughter was going to college. And I'm like, Wes, give me some tips, man. And he goes, and it was the greatest tip in the world. And he says, think of the worst thing your daughter can tell you when she gets older and start working on your answer now. And I went, oh my gosh. And so my point of this is, I'm always seeking advice. I'm always seeking to learn. And, I have a saying that I use with people all the time. And that is, it starts with a question, and I'll ask you, Phil, do you know what the difference between being a genius and being an idiot is? Success. Jeff Bezos starts a thing called Amazon. His friend's like, you're an idiot. No one's going to buy books on a website called Amazon. Now he's a genius. And so my goal is to be an idiot enough times so I can one time be a genius. And so I think, going back to your question, how do I get this drive? And this passion for what I do, man, I just want to have impact. Like, I don't know. It's not because I'm some nice person or giving human. Like, I'm not that noble. I'm not that humble. I'm not that smart. I don't know. I just have fun is all I just have fun. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
There's a lot of people listening, maybe business leaders that are doing it, but there's tough decisions they have to make or big pivots they want to make. Or there's, people in the corporate world that are thinking about starting a business or they want to be entrepreneurial and they've been thinking about it and they've been thinking about it. Have you, I guess, what guidance would you give them? And like you made some big shifts. You've made some big pivots.
I've gone broke twice.
So we don't want to, teach them how to not do that. But what got you to make those moves? Like, what guidance would you give those people?
Hey, first of all, I'm going to tell you, go broke. Like, listen, that's temporary. That you want to own your own business, you got to be willing to put it all on the line. It's Texas Hold'em all in. Now, you try and not do that. Like, the goal is to say, okay, let me get the broke out of the way early. It's not the plan.
Right.
But I think you have to take the fear out of the play. And so I'll give you a couple of things in this area. A lot of people say, well, Nathan, I can't just quit my job because I have kids and family. Your kids don't care what house they live in. Your ego does. Most of us can fail and somewhere along the way find something to pull us up. We all have some safety net we probably don't want to hit, but we have one. And even if you don't, most likely you'll have a better chance of succeeding because you have no choice. There's no plan B if plan A is the only option. Now, I want to clarify something real quick. Whether it's working for a business, a company, or being an entrepreneur, being a leader is just like being in a marriage or having kids. I have bad days, Phil. I don't want you to think I wake up every morning going, God is good. Man, like, I say I'm living the dream. I say I'm living the dream all the time. And by the way, Will Ferrell, all these guys stole that from me because I've been doing it for 20 years. And the reason why I always say it is because I didn't say it was a good dream. I have 4 kids. Like, my oldest son is 30. My youngest is 13. I have bad days. I have bad things happen to me. But I think it's just like, as I said, running a business or leading a team, it's like a marriage. This is the greatest thing, everything I've ever done is married my wife. But that doesn't mean every day we don't have our problems or we don't struggle. Raising my kids, I love them. Sometimes I tell my kids all the time, I love you. Especially my youngest 2 daughters are 15 and 13. So if you have teenagers, you know exactly what I'm saying. I love them more than anything in this world. But I don't like them a lot of the times. You know,
I don't know.
love
we
them.
have 5 kids. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. But again, here's my advice to someone. If you want to become an entrepreneur and you're not, I think you have to have 2 expectations. One, you have to say, what if I have no money for the next 12 months? The second one I tell people is the next one is you have to go willing to go all in. You got to be willing to go broke, sell the house, sell the cars, live in an apartment, whatever it takes. Go live with your mommy and daddy. Go, if you're old like me, go live with your kids. Like, you got to be willing to do that so you don't have to do that, because you'll give up. Now, you know, I was at an event when Steve Harvey started Little Big Shots, and I was in the audience with my wife, and during the commercials, I asked Steve Harvey, I said, what's success for you? Because he's on everything in the world. And I thought his answer was great, because a lot of people say, do what you love. And Steve Harvey says, the problem with that is a lot of things you love to do, no one will pay you to do. He says, when the talents that you were given match up what people will pay you to do, that's success.
Yep.
And so, again, my advice is be committed to it.
Yeah.
Go for it. And do everything you can to succeed.
And what I would add to that
take fear out. Yeah.
Is I think ego can be such a barrier. And I think understanding the worst case scenario, understanding it and writing it down is so important, because a lot of times you'll write that down and say, oh, we can figure this out. And the thing about the best case scenario of doing that is not what you can comprehend. Like Steve Jobs has a quote that I love: you can't connect the dots forward, but you got to take action. You got to move in that direction. And you had no idea, I suspect, 10, 15, 20, whenever you made the big decisions, big pivots, all the different things that you did and how the dots connected and led you to where today, right? You didn't even dream that would happen, right?
No.
So you can't comprehend what might happen positive. You're just focusing on the negative. That's what our mind does. So I would just encourage you to really focus on what can you do, what decisions can you make now, and fear regret, not failure. The other thing I'll add is the kids don't care where you live, but kids are paying attention to your purpose and your passion behind what you do. And if you're going home every night and complaining about it, or worn down, or in a bad culture, they can see it and they can feel it. And they don't want that mom or dad there. They don't want that person. They want the person that's on fire for what they're doing. They're passionate about it. They're excited about it. So it's like, you really got to understand what's driving these decisions. Is it ego or is it something else? And it takes some self-reflection and understanding to figure that out, I think.
Hey, listen, I agree with you 100%. I think our ego gets in the way of our ability so often. And so I remember in 1998, it's funny, I left corporate America. Well, when I was at Sprint for many years, I had over 500 employees, and I had this big expense budget, and I've been to the Grammys a couple of times, and I felt really important. And then when I left corporate America, and I'm answering my own phone calls, and I'm going on my sales call, like I'm everybody, I'm nothing and everybody. And 2 things someone said to me that had nothing to do, who would normally give me advice in this area. I'm meeting with my brother one time, and he's a physical therapist and has the drive of a gnat. Life's hard for him. I love him, but he's got no drive. And he would, if he was here with you, he'd say the same thing. And I told him he says, how's it going? I said, man, I'm really struggling. I used to be in charge of the west part of the country, and I had all these employees and this responsibility, and I was important. He says, man, if your worth is based off what you have and what your responsibilities are at work, that's pretty sad. Yeah. And I'm like, where'd that come from? But right. That was over 20 years ago, and I still remember it. Then my wife, when we were in 1998, I've been in this business for 3 years. I haven't had success yet. And January of 2007, not 1998, 2007, my wife comes to me. I go to my wife and say, hey, we're out of money. We spent all the money we've saved up, and we had a nice nest egg. And I said, we're out of money. In 30 days, we're going to sell the house, sell the cars, move in an apartment. And my wife, and I said, but I can go get a job and be a corporate VP or do something, and we'll be out of this like that.
A lot of times the worst case scenario is what you're doing right now sometimes. Right? Well,
but this is where the support of your loved one matters. My wife looked me in the eye and says, I was born poor. I was raised poor. I don't care about being poor. You say live in the dream, chase your dream. Then let's keep living this dream and chase the dream. And I'm telling you, the next month, my pastor from my church gave me my first client.
Yep.
And so that's that thing where that belief and that passion, I know it sounds corny. It's the fuel that gives you the effort.
Yeah, I love it. We got to wrap up here. I have two more quick questions. One, if you step back and reflect, how does what you do, how does it make you feel?
Man, it makes me feel like I'm doing, like I have purpose. Like, I got to tell you that one of the coolest things I get, Phil, is when I coach someone, and I had a client, I coached her for 3 years. And then I stopped coaching them. Like, we went separate ways, and I gave them all I could give them, and they got all they could get. And quite candidly, this person wasn't my best client, but it was a good young client. And I get a text message 3 years later. It says, "Hey, I just want to tell you thank you. Like, I am here in my career because of you." Like, that is validation. And I know you shouldn't need that. You should think of on your own of yourself. But that impact I get to have on people, it's amazing. And again, not because I'm noble. I think it's because I'm so selfish and egotistical. Like, I need someone to say, you're important. And I know you shouldn't need that, but that validation of impact is what we do. Like, it's awesome. And then when I get off stage, man, especially during a keynote, like when I was with you in Cincinnati, and we were just in that small group, like, it's moving when someone comes to me and says, "Dude, I love you." Like, I love that connection.
Well, Nathan, this is fantastic. You're having an impact. Your speech was great. You have first of all, obviously there's some humor here. Nathan brings in humor and he connects with the audience so well. Check out his books for sure. Nathan, how can people find out more about you? Where do you want to direct them?
Here's what I would tell you. If you want a book, go to Amazon. That's easy. If you want information, like we have several coaching programs for entrepreneurs. We have coaching program for sales leaders, and we have coaching programs, individual VIP coaching programs. The best thing to do is go to nathanjamail.com. That's NathanJamail.com. Click on contact us. One of my team members will get a hold of you, get you all the information you need. We have a Nathan AI, by the way, where you can actually talk to me. I have a virtual AI. It's like, "Hey, this is Nathan Jamail." And all my data is loaded into the AI. It's a closed AI system. But nathanjamail.com is where you go, and we'd love to connect.
Awesome. Nathan, this has been amazing. I had, first of all, a ton of fun, but wisdom. I love it. I mean, you brought it. You brought the heat. You're obviously very humble, and you have a way of sharing and telling stories that's incredible. A great speaker, a great coach. Nathan, I appreciate it so much. For the Purpose Matrix, signing off.